As we already discussed, the Confederate government has given strict directions to the Army of Northern Virginia and Robert E. Lee. The Union strategy from the onset of the war was created by General Winfield Scott, not to be mistaken for Winfield Scott Hancock. The plan was called the Anaconda Plan. A U.S. Navy blockade starting from Delaware will stretch down to the Florida Keys and continue west to New Orleans. Then Union forces will seize important forts on the Mississippi and starve the Confederacy out, while the army in the east take the Confederate capital, which was recently in April of 1861 placed in Richmond, Virginia, which was roughly over 90 miles away from Washington, D.C. It had become clear to the Confederate President Jefferson Davis and the Confederate Congress that the Mississippi aspect of the Anaconda Plan would soon succeed with the capture of New Orleans in May of 1862, and the Army of Tennessee, commanded by U.S. Grant, was capturing territory on the river, including the currently besieged city of Vicksburg, Mississippi. If the war would not end soon, all supplies coming in from Texas would no longer reach the majority of the Confederate states. So the plan is simple. The Army of Northern Virginia will head north, destroy the Army of the Potomac north of Washington, D.C., and then march on the capital. The north of the city was of course defended, but it's highly debatable if it would be able to take on a direct assault from the Army of Northern Virginia. Once at Washington, Lee has a letter that was prepared for Abraham Lincoln demanding an armistice and full recognition of the Confederate States as a sovereign nation. Robert E. Lee is moving quickly due to the fact that his three corps are independently moving. They are moving extremely quickly. He is also given strict orders to not engage the enemy until the army is concentrated together. He is trying to figure out what lays ahead of him because his spies in Virginia have informed him that Andrew Gregg Curtin, the governor of Pennsylvania, has called for the defense of his state, raising militias across the state to defend it from the invading rebels. Lee was facing a huge problem at this point. In Virginia, Lee knew the land. He knew what was before him, and he had a population that would report Union movements to him. In Pennsylvania, he was relying on Jeb Stuart and his cavalry division. But the problem was, no one had heard from Jeb Stuart. The flamboyant cavalryman had no contact for weeks at this point with the main army. Instead, Stuart was raiding towns and cities throughout the north, getting as far in Pennsylvania as the capital of Harrisburg, which was now being defended by Curtin's state militia. In fact, they had already raided the town of Gettysburg weeks before Lee looked at the town. So blindly, Lee decided he needed to concentrate the Army of Northern Virginia. He saw the small town of Gettysburg. It only made sense being the town was somewhat of a hub, with 10 important roads entering it. The Chambersburg Pike, the Mummersburg Road, Tarrytown Road, Baltimore Pike, York Road, Hanover Road, Emmitsburg Road, Fairfield Road, the Harrisburg Road, and Carlisle Road. Some of these roads led to Philadelphia, some to Harrisburg, and many to Maryland, including Baltimore and Washington, D.C. itself. It was the perfect place for the Army of Northern Virginia to combine together. Another perk is the town being a hub. There were reports of supplies in the town. Lee wasn't the only person who could see the importance of the town of Gettysburg. John Buford, in command of the 1st Division of the Cavalry Corps, had been screening the Army of Northern Virginia for weeks and watching their movements and reporting it back to the Army of the Potomac, which was spread across Maryland. On June 30th, 1863, Buford's cavalry saw troops from Johnson Pettigrew's brigade in Heath's division exiting the Gettysburg town limits. Pettigrew also saw Buford and his cavalry moving into the town. Witnessing the Federal cavalry, he doubled back to Cashtown, northwest of the town, to report what he had seen to his division commander, Henry Heath, and his corps commander, A.P. Hill. Both dismissed his claims of the cavalry, saying it was not cavalry. In fact, it was just Pennsylvania state militia. Knowing the entire army will be converging on the town, Hill gave Heath permission in the morning to move in and get rid of the, in quote, militia before the whole army could arrive. Buford decided to dig into the northwest of Gettysburg, near the Lutheran seminary, because he recognized something important. South of the town were heights that, if an army would be able to control, would have command of the town and all surrounding land. So his objective was to hold back the Southern troops long enough that the Army of the Potomac could arrive and position themselves on those heights beyond the town. Throughout the night, Buford sent riders to all Union Corps to come to Gettysburg with all haste. The two closest were the 1st Corps under John Reynolds and the 11th under Oliver Howard behind. The 2 corps were at Emmitsburg, Maryland, which was roughly 10 miles from Gettysburg. The next was the 2nd under Winfield Scott Hancock and 3rd under Dan Sickles at Taneytown, Maryland, which was 14 miles away. With his 2,950 troopers, he began to deploy his 3 brigades with Colonel William Gamble, Thomas Devon's brigades west and north of the town, and Brigadier General Wesley Merritt's the reserves staying in the town, trying to prepare the evacuation of citizens. Buford, from the Lutheran seminary, is about to start the 3 bloodiest days in American history.